Hi everyone. So I kind of wanted to talk today about where a lot of my depression stems, or well started actually, is being a daughter of a narcissistic mother. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you have suffered the same fate. Whether you're a son or a daughter, it's both pretty terrible. So again, I'm not wearing any makeup. I'm not doing anything fancy. This is just me in real life. I often don't wear makeup when I'm around the house. Yes, I have a cold sore. It tends to flare up anytime I'm really stressed or having a lot of anxiety. And last night I had a lot of anxiety just thinking about different things. And it seems like anytime I'm relaxing, my brain's like, let's think about all your failures. And so that happened. Though overall, my depression's been kind of stable. For about 2 months, it was super high. I didn't have any any low points where like I had a break in the high depression. But right now it's kind of stable, which is nice. I got out of the house on Tuesday. I just went to the store and kind of walked around. First time I'd been out of the house, aside from my doctor's appointment, in like 2 months. So it felt good, and there wasn't a lot of people in the store, which is nice. I always hate when you turn into an aisle and there's someone there, but their buggy is blocking the aisle. Like, there's not enough room to squeeze by, but you've already committed to the turn. So you have to like stare at the shampoo and pretend like you're contemplating which one you really want until they move so you can go through the aisle. But anyways, I got a bunch of stuff for my son's Valentine's Day party, and I got some stuff to send my daughter and nephews for Valentine's Day, so that was nice. And when I got home, I felt really refreshed, and I had enough energy to clean the house, which was nice. If any of you suffer from thyroid issues, you know how tiring it is. I am on hormones, but they're still trying to figure out the level that I need to be at, so my body's kind of been out of whack, which doesn't help the anxiety or depression. But I digress. My mom. Ever since I can remember, she's always put me down. She's always placed my sister on a pedestal, and I was always kind of put down. I mean, there was a point when my mother said, everyone is up here, and she raised her hand as high as she could, and she said, and you're down here. And she put her hand as low as possible. And that is something I will never, ever get out of my mind. It was so emotionally scarring to hear someone who is supposed to love you unconditionally say that. It was terrible. And I don't know, her narcissism was out of control. And of course, when her and my adoptive dad got a divorce, her narcissism really flew because she went into the dating scene and was dating all these men, and it made her feel powerful and important, which rubbed off on me because when I became an adult, that's where I thought my power and, self-esteem came from, was men, unfortunately. I mean, I've learned from that, obviously, but yeah, it was weird. I was dating a guy, and my mom dated his best friend, who was younger than my boyfriend at the time. That was awkward when your mom's dating someone younger than your boyfriend. He was a year older than me, which was pretty gross. And she left her bedroom and moved into my sister's old bedroom, which was next door to mine. For why? I have no idea. But she made sure that when she had sex, it was loud. I could hear it in my room, which was disgusting. I had to sleep in the living room because I just didn't want to hear that. My mom was always talking about sex with me and the guy she was sleeping with like it was cool. It was very disturbing. She was always bad-mouthing my adoptive dad, which when they split, it made me feel awkward being at his house, which eventually fractured our relationship to the point where we didn't have a relationship. So after about the age of 14, I didn't have a dad, really, because she tainted it so much. She told me all sorts of gross things about their sex life, things that was none of my business, and it didn't affect how he parented. You know, he still wanted me to come over and stuff and try to, act like a parent to me, and I let my mom interfere with that because my mom wanted to make sure someone was on her side because my sister had moved out, at age 11 or 12 and lived with her dad. Didn't my because my mom basically kicked her out for stupid reasons. Not, I won't get into that because it's, her business, but once my sisters, then my mom started kind of doting on me a little bit because my sister wrote her off basically. And I ate that attention up because for the first 13, 14 years of my life, I didn't get any attention from my mom. It was all negative. Now all of a sudden I'm getting this positive energy and positivity. I loved it. I felt loved. I was like, this is great. But in reality, it was a manipulation tactic, and she wanted to make sure I was even more dependent on her than normal. At 16, I found out I was legally blind. I wasn't going to be able to drive, which was really hard. It was really hard on me. I have an eye condition called optic neural atrophy. My optical nerves are completely clear, furthering my dependency on not only my mother, but people I've dated, and I'll forever be dependent on someone, whether it's Lyft or Uber or friends or whoever, which is unfortunate. But my mother's always played mind games. Always. My sister and I were never on her good side at the same time. She always made sure one was on her bad side and one was on her good side. For the first 13, 14 years, it was my sister on her good side. Then I'd switched for about 4 years where I was on her good side. Then I got pregnant with my daughter, which my mom loved her. Um, and then I got married and lived with my husband. Then I got pregnant. Well, I got pregnant before I got married. And then my mom started doing the same thing to my kids, favoring one over the other, favoring my daughter over my son. So she's repeating this cycle. Narcissistic mothers become narcissistic grandparents. My son was diagnosed with autism, which further split my mom away from him. She would always come get my daughter, never came and got my son, always doted on my daughter, never even asked about my son. Which is split to all of my family, unfortunately. No one asks how my son is doing. No one. Everyone dotes on my daughter. Which she's an amazing kid, she's awesome. But I mean, I have a son too, and just because he has autism doesn't mean he's any less of a person. He's an amazing kid that unfortunately, a lot of people don't care to know. My husband completely wrote him off as soon as he was diagnosed with autism. So anyways, I'm trailing off. When I moved away from Oklahoma, me and my mom's relationship started to fracture. She accused me, well, first of all, I was living with her for like a year before I moved to Florida and helping her pay the bills. But I had to get out of there because she wanted me to get my own place, but how was I supposed to get my own place if I was helping her with all the bills? I couldn't save any money, which was hard. When I moved to Florida, things fractured because she couldn't afford living on her own anymore because she was living off of the Social Security, which is fine. She has fibromyalgia and some other things going on. She's always been sickly, or so she claims anyways, but she blames me for that. She blames me for her losing her house. Well, she lost her house because she basically moved out of it and moved in with her sister and just kind of let it go to crap, let it go, into foreclosure, and took her mom with her, which, let's see, it's been about 4 or 5 years. 4, we'll go with 4 years and, no, it'll be 5 years in February that I've completely cut my mom off. I haven't spoken to her. Me and my sister haven't. That's when me and my sister started talking again, and we started getting close. Unfortunately, we're not close anymore. We barely talk unless it's about my daughter who's living with her, which I'm glad she informs me in what's going on in my daughter's life, which I still talk to my daughter every single morning, but it was refreshing. I couldn't handle her favoring my kids anymore. Like, it was getting ridiculous. She would send my daughter things, but never Seth, my son. And I just couldn't anymore. And she was using my sister and making my sister feel bad for her having a good life and not buying her a car. And she was just repeating the cycle all over again. But it's been refreshing cutting her off. Unfortunately, that meant, the rest of my family went along with that because my mom has them so wrapped around her finger that, of course, they're going to side with her, which is fine. But it's lonely. I don't have any family. It's basically my son and my daughter and my son. So I'm alone, basically, which is terrifying. And it puts a lot of anxiety on, like right now, if something were to happen to me, I don't have an emergency contact to get my son from school. I have no one to watch him if I need surgery or whatever. So now I have all these thyroid issues and, I'm having female reproductive issues and which might require surgery, and like, what am I supposed to do? It's really scary and adds to the anxiety. But even though I haven't spoken to my mom in 5 years, it still consumes my life. It affects everything. I'm still, dependent on, I'm trying to break that cycle. I'm trying to be independent, but it's hard. My mom never mothered me. She never made sure I brushed my teeth. She never made sure my clothes were clean. She never made sure I took showers. I didn't have my first dentist appointment until I was 16, and only because I had toothache so bad, my cavities were so bad, I had cysts in my mouth, and I had to have 2 teeth taken out. I never had my wisdom teeth taken out. I have to do that now as an adult. I need to have my back wisdom teeth taken out, but, like, who's going to watch my son? And I'm scared when I come home after the surgery, if I'm still, on goofy gas, like, what happens if something happens to my son while I'm, on that, or what if I'm on medication and something happens? I worry about that, and it's frightening. I'm so alone. Like, it feels so isolating and scary. But all those things that I never got the routine of from my mom, I never learned how to be a mom from my mom. Everything I've learned, I had to learn on my own, which I've made a lot of mistakes. I always made sure my kids were loved and I always took care of them, but I feel like I took too good care of them to the point that they didn't learn to do a lot of things on their own. Like, I always wanted to do their laundry for them and cook for them and pick up after them. And, I wanted them to be kids. I wanted them to have, a good time, versus when I was a kid, I had to do everything myself. I had to cook for myself, clean for myself, do my laundry, get ready in the morning, wake myself up, make it home from school, okay, make sure my homework was done. I had to do that all on my own. I didn't want that for my kids. I always made sure their homework was done. Always made sure they brushed their teeth every morning. I made sure I woke them up in the morning. I was their alarm clock. I did my daughter's hair every morning. I would, YouTube videos on how to do all these hairstyles because she had really long hair. She wanted, Rapunzel hair, and I always did her hair in cute, adorable Game of Thrones ways, and, really trying. And as much as my intentions were, I crippled them. I made it so that my daughter, who, whenever she was 13, didn't know how to work a washer and dryer. She didn't know how to use the oven because I never thought to teach her that, and that should have been. Yes, she helped me cook, but I never had her use the oven. I was always worried she was going to burn herself, and she is a lot smaller than most kids her age, so I don't know if that played into it because she always looked younger than she was, but that's not helping her. And I made a lot of mistakes, and my anxiety rubbed off on her, my social anxiety rubbed off on her, which is another reason why, I agreed to her living with my sister so she could grow, and she has grown. She doesn't run away from conflict now. She faces conflict, and she has confidence, and her anxiety is getting better, and that's amazing, and I'm really happy for her. I mean, it's hard as a parent knowing that you unintentionally hurt your child. So I did the opposite of my mom who didn't mother me at all and just kind of left me to my own devices and had to do everything on my own. I did the opposite to my kid and over mothered them, which was not helpful. And I'm trying to fix that, and it's been hard. It's been hard seeing her doing so well without me. So that's another thing that my mom has affected my life with, and I'm trying really hard to move on from that. So I'm trying with my son to make him more independent. He does have autism, so he needs a lot of help, which that played into my daughter as well. It's not all my mom's fault. I was so used to taking care of Seth, doing everything for him. It was just natural to do the same thing for my daughter, which was not helpful for her, but I miss her a lot. I can't wait for her to come this summer. But yeah, so I've made a lot of mistakes. I failed a lot. I wish I could go back in time, but I can't. I'm just hoping that, because my daughter and I were close until we moved in with my sister, and then it kind of fractured, but I'm hoping eventually we'll be close again. I would like that. But I'm very flawed, and I'm trying to fix that. I'm in therapy, and I don't know if it's helping. But my mom dated a lot of guys. I would come home and there'd be a new guy there. Or wake up and there's a new guy there getting ready for school, and I'm bumping into a guy I've never met before. Coming home from school, my mom's not there. There's some guy in our house redoing her kitchen that I never met before. One time she had a guy that she met online. She left the door unlocked, let him come home. She had never met him in person before. I met him in person before she did. I mean, he turned out to be a really nice guy, but she didn't know that. I didn't know that. It was really awkward. She was always clubbing, going out on the weekends, going to bars, coming home drunk, on Ambien a lot. She would be high on Ambien, and she was always crushing pills. She always had this thing around her neck. She would crush pills in it and tap it into her mouth. It was really disturbing. But, I guess that's enough for now. I'm kind of getting emotional, and I didn't want to make this really long, but this is just part one of some stuff that I went through growing up, and I don't know, I guess it's good to talk about it. Like, I already feel a little bit better just kind of talking about it, kind of, instead of keeping it in. It's hard when you feel like no one can relate. And so many people are like, she's your mom, you only have one mom, but sometimes you just have to break free. Blood does not equal family. And family doesn't always equal blood. And I've learned that for sure. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.